Alright, I couldn't sleep last night, so I kind of got a little piece of paper out and I started out, I was looking at Disney, and I wanted to see how much money, based on their current price and current dividend that they paid, how much I would need to invest in order to make enough money to live off of, you know. And so that got me thinking, well, let me look at a whole bunch of stocks and kind of compare. So I made this little chart. And so this video is going to kind of be about dividend investing, and it's going to have some examples to kind of demonstrate. So to start out with, in order to calculate dividend, I guess I'll go back before that. You got, in order to make money off stocks, you could basically buy a stock at a price, wait for it to go up in value, and then sell it, and then you make the difference in profit. Another way you can make money in stocks is to buy a stock that pays a dividend percentage, and then at the end of the year you'll get that annual dividend payout, which it's not a lot of money. If you're just buying like one share expecting to make a lot, you're not going to make a lot. You're going to have to buy, you're going to have to put some money into it in order to make a decent dividend. In order to calculate a dividend, see, this camera may not focus in too well, but it's going to basically be annual dividend is equal to the stock price times the dividend yield percentage. Okay, so let's say, for instance, let's say Disney. Okay, so for Disney, the current price is $151.58, and the dividend percentage is 1.16%. So you multiply those two, and that gives you $1.76 per share that you bought. And that's based on that stock price staying the same and that percentage staying the same, which both of these two numbers change. So the annual dividend payout would probably change as well, but this will just give you a ballpark of about what it would pay. Next, I kind of factored in, as far as being able to live, I know $1,000 a month doesn't cover everything for most people, but the way I was thinking is that's the bulk or the majority of my expenses. So let's say my current rent is $575, and my average electricity is $50 a month. Okay. Now, based on the area I live, I can't really picture my rent and my electricity exceeding $1,000. Until the day I die. I think, maybe, when I get old, it may get to about $900 to $1,000 just to cover the electricity and the rent. But just to kind of base it on about what it is now. So based on current living conditions, I can pay my rent, electricity, truck insurance, my cell phone card, and half of my groceries on $1,000 a month. So that's why I just chose $1,000. So that's the bulk of my expenses in a month. And for the long term, I think $1,000 would cover at least my rent and electricity for the future. And on this little chart, I made a few little columns of different amounts to figure out. So let's say you didn't need $1,000 a month. Say you have some other income, and you only need, say you need $200 a month extra, just in order to kind of feel secure. Say you got some other income coming in, you just need $200. So I got one column down here that is $100 every month for the year factored in. So say you need 200, just say that number times 2, if that, kind of give you an idea. So in order to get that $1,000 per month, every month for a year, that would equal to $12,000. And so I said 12,000, and I divided that by the annual dividend, okay? And then that gave me the number of shares of a stock that I would need to buy. Then I said the number of shares times the stock price, and that gave me my total cost. And so these are the stocks that I chose. So my first column, and all these prices are based on November 30th, 2019. So these are the current stock prices and dividend percentages, which again, these two numbers change, stocks fluctuate, but I tried not to pick any stocks that had a history of just going downhill really fast over the past year, and I tried to pick stocks that either had a stable dividend or that had a dividend that was growing at least. So starting out, Pattern Energy, 27.52, gave a dividend of 6.13 currently. Now over the past 5 years, this stock's kind of gone up and down like crazy. But over the past year, it went from 20 to 27. So maybe it's kind of stable now. So go down the list. I got Pattern Energy, AT&T, Verizon, Ford, Waste Management, Disney, SRET, which is an ETF from Global Times that has to deal with real estate investment trust. SDIV is another Global Times ETF that's comprised of the high dividend paying stocks on a global basis. And Apple, Coca-Cola, and O is a stock ticker for Realty Investment Group or Realty Investment Trust. Okay, and so the reason you may want to consider one of these stocks over another is the times that they pay out. All right, so some stocks pay out a dividend once a year. Let's see, let me use Disney. Pays out a dividend in the summer, and then it pays out a dividend in the winter. So if it's a stock that has a good chance of kind of going down, and you don't want to feel like you got to hold it for 6 months, you may want to stay away from Disney. But I feel like Disney's safe. To me personally, I think Disney's a good long-term hold. But for other stocks, you may not want to hold it, 6 months. I would use Ford as an example of one that you may not want to hold. So Ford pays out a dividend quarterly. So you would need to hold that for 3 months in order to collect the dividend. And Ford's kind of, I don't know, it goes from 8 to 11. So if you were bought it at $11 a share and it dropped down to 8, stayed at 8, you'd have to hold it for 3 months just to get that dividend. And then it'd be less of a dividend annual payout because the stock price is lower. Let's see. And then a lot of people choose stocks like O, the stock ticker O, because it's a monthly paying dividend. So if that stock started dropping within the course of a month, you could always turn around and sell it, and you probably wouldn't lose as much money selling it in a month as compared to having to hold it for a quarter, so for 3 months. Also, this O is kind of known as the monthly dividend stock to own, because not only does the value of the stock in general go up, I think it's gone from 70 to 76 this year, maybe like $68 to 76 over the course of the year. And the dividend percentage generally tends to go up as well. Now, if the price goes up to $80 a share, I'm sure the dividend might drop to like 3.25%. So not a big drop, but usually what happens is when the stock price goes up, the dividend tends to go down sometimes. Okay, and so one thing I like to talk about is dividend traps. So you may see a stock that's selling at a reasonable price, say $1 a share, and the dividend is 20%. Okay, that's great. because you compare it to some stocks that only pay 1%. So having a stock that pays 20%, seems like a great deal. But let's say in the course of a year, that stock that you bought for $1 drops half of the value. So it's only worth 50 cents at the end of the year. Yeah, so, so you made 20% of the dollar. So you made 20 cents on the dividend, but then you lost 50 cents on the stock. So basically you made a negative 30 cents. So you didn't make any money. Even though you got paid money on the dividend, you lost money on the stock. So that's one thing you got to weigh out. One thing I like about this SRET, now the price doesn't really increase over the past year. It's pretty much stayed at 15. It's gone up to about 16 and a half, then dropped to 14, and then so at the beginning of the year it was around 15, and at the end of the year it was around 15. So you're not really going to accumulate a lot of income based on the stock price, but if you look at that 8.65%, that's been pretty steady, and it's a monthly payout. So that's a good dividend play. And I'll kind of go over why this is like a main pick of mine as far as a high risk. So when I say high risk and low risk, like this real estate investment trust, it can fluctuate in the price. It's not really going to increase. So I would say it's more of a high risk. A company like Waste Management is more of a low risk because they have not a lot of competition. I know it's a small dividend, 1.82%, but the stock price does kind of go up over time. It's got a steady growth over the year. It's got a decent. Now you're not gonna make $100 per share profit in the course of a year, but you are gonna make a profit in the course of a year. It may be $10 in a year, but so it is growing. You're not going to lose money on the stock price over the course of the year, probably. Then if you go to Google and you look out the payout, they have a consistent payout, and then so they're paying out every quarter consistently. And then on top of that, let's see what else was I going to say about it. Oh yeah, the dividend is they pay out 22%. That's the payout ratio. So basically, that means 22% of their profits go towards dividend payouts. That means they could possibly double that dividend over time and still afford to pay it. Say it doubles from 1.8 to where's Waste Management? Yeah, 1.82%. Say they want to over double it. Say they want to go to 4%. They could still do that and still maintain a 50% payout ratio. So there's longevity in being able to pay that out. Whereas a stock like Coca-Cola, which I still like Coca-Cola, it's not bad, but that dividend's actually dropped a little bit since the stock price has gone up. And they have last time I checked, it was like a 77% dividend payout ratio. So that means they're paying out 77% of their profits in dividends. So I think Waste Management would be a better choice as far as longevity goes. All right, so going on to the next column, the annual dividend amount. Let me see if it's hard to focus with this. There we go. So Pattern Energy pays out $1.69 for every share that you bought based on that price and that dividend. That's the annual payout. Let's see, AT&T pays out $2.04 for every share that you bought at $37.38. And one thing to consider, that's a quarterly payout. So basically you're getting 50 cents every quarter. But if you added up all those quarters together, you get $2, for the annual. And so I'll let everybody can just kind of read, kind of determine what pays what dividend. Okay. And so, let's see, you can see that, say like Apple, for instance, it pays $3, which is the highest dividend on here, but you also have to buy at least one share at $2.67. So, that's a lot of money to put in. Whereas, let's say a stock that's not that much less, as far as the dividend. So say Verizon pays $2.46, you'd only need to put $60 into it. But then again, you have to factor out the risk. So Verizon is probably riskier than Apple, if I had to guess. Okay, and so the next column is going to be kind of, I just did four figures. I did $100 per year, $1,000 per year, $100 per month for a year, and then $1,000 per month for a year. So in order to make $100, which would basically pay, say like part of the Christmas gifts every year. Say you want to cash out at Christmas time, cash the dividend out, and buy Christmas gifts. Which I know $100 wouldn't buy much, but still. So $100 based on that dividend, so divided by that dividend, would give me 59 shares I would need to buy of Pattern Energy in order to receive the $100 per year. And so that would be the equivalent of $16.29 as far as the amount of money that I would need to invest into this one stock to get that dividend to make $100 a year. Okay, and so I'll kind of go down the list, and you can see in order to make $100 a year, how many shares and what the total cost would be in order to generate that amount of money. Okay, the next row, $1,000. And so to make $1,000 off the dividends every year, this is not monthly, this is just at the end of the year you cash out the dividends, and that would give you $1,000. So let's see, say Pattern Energy, I would need 592 shares. The total cost would be $16,292 in order to make $1,000 at the end of the year. So I figure this is Christmas gift money. That $1,000 would probably be like vacation every year. So I know it wouldn't cover the total cost of a vacation, but that would at least cover the flight and the hotel. Say you went in off season to like Costa Rica for a week, or say you went to Hong Kong for a week or something like that. That would cover the flight and the hotel pretty much. So Christmas gift money, vacation money. Or you could reinvest in it or use it to pay bills or whatever. But so to make $1,000 off the dividends for a year, these are the amounts you would have to have. Okay. And so next, say you want to kind of supplement your income. So say you want to make $100 a month every month. These are the number of shares you would need to have and the amount you would need to invest. So to make $100 a month every month, say with Pattern Energy, you would need 710 shares, and you would need a total of 19,539 invested into Pattern Energy in order to make $100 off of their dividend per year. Okay, and so next, let's say, I guess my column. So next is $1,000 a month, and say you want to make $1,000 every month all year. Let's say Pattern Energy again. I would need to have 3,100 shares, and the cost would be $195,392 invested into it in order to make $1,000 a month on the dividend. And so I'll kind of go down, let you see So to use it as example, Apple and Disney, I would need over $1 million in either one of these in order to make $1,000 a month. Okay, which those are less risky than these two global times ETFs. But when you factor out the global times ETFs, you would only need around 138 to 141,000 of each of those in order to generate that 1,000 a month. Now, of course, these stocks or these ETFs, or they are riskier. Pretty much the safest stock on here that I see is going to be Waste Management, just because of I don't see the stock price dropping, and there's a good potential for that dividend to double. And so with them, it was 660,000 is what you would need to invest in if you only invested into Waste Management in order to collect that $1,000 per month for the whole year. Now say that dividend doubles, you'd be looking at 330,000, which is still a lot of money, but there's pretty much no risk with Waste Management. So that's something to consider. So if you want to basically have that $1,000 a month every month for the whole year, and you didn't mind taking the risk, then you could invest in SRET, and you could invest 138,000. There's a good chance you'll pretty much maintain that 1,000 a month. And so that's the high risk. And then if you want to go a little bit lower risk, you could do something like AT&T, which is going to be a lower risk. And then you would need to invest 219,000 in order to make that $1,000 a month. Another thing to consider with dividends, it would be look at their payout history and look at the amount that they pay out. So just because something's paying 10% now doesn't mean that 5 months ago, it could have been paying 2%. And then, 6 months after, or in the future, it could be paying 4%. So if the dividend yield fluctuates, that's something to consider. The payout ratio, which Coca-Cola 77% compared to Waste Management 22% payout ratio, you have more longevity, or Waste Management will be able to continue to pay that dividend longer than Coca-Cola would. But Coca-Cola is still stable. I still like Coca-Cola. I'm not trying to downgrade them. I'm just saying they have they're paying out a higher percentage of their profits in the dividend. Okay, so let's say you didn't want to pick just one. Let's say you wanted to pick, let's say 4 stocks to have it kind of diversified. So say you pick 2 high-end ETFs, that's SRET, SDIV. Say you wanted a medium risk, which would probably be Ford. And then say you wanted a solid, safe company, and that would be Waste Management. Okay, so if you added up these amounts, okay, so Ford, Waste Management, SDIV, SRET, if you added those 4 stocks together, and say you wanted 25% of your retirement money into each one of those, that would equal around 240,000. So to have it kind of diversified, in order to make 1,000 a month with those 4 stocks, you would need 240,000. Just to give you kind of an idea of how it would be if you were to split it. Let's say you wanted to let me pick 2 to kind of give you like a good idea. I think Waste Management and say the Royalty Investment Group. Say you wanted 50% of your retirement into this one, 50% into this one. Okay, so that would be 660 plus 338. So just around 650 plus, let's say 350. So 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So let me see what that'd be. So half of that's 330, and then half of this is 150. So you'd be looking at around 450,000 in order to generate 1,000 a month with those two stocks. Going back to the payout history, you may have a stock like GameStop, which they were announcing they were paying it got up to like 39% on the dividend. But if you look at when the last time they paid one, it was in March. It was the last time they even paid a dividend. So then they skipped the summer, they skipped the fall. So they could announce they're paying an 80% dividend. It doesn't mean, they actually paid anything. So that's another consideration. But so anyway, this is just a little chart I made. If anybody's interested in, based on the current price, the current dividend, how many shares, and at what price total cost you would need to put into an individual stock in order to make $1,000 a month.